I wouldn't be surprised if that ends Tim Patrick's career.
Oh yeah, I would
Unfortunately,
say
Probably.
Tim.
It's
Yeah,
either
so I
LA or
think
San Francisco, let's
yeah.
be honest.
If he goes to the
these are the
Dodgers,
think-
I'm just gonna cry.
Dodgers could keep on falling and you'd
I'm
still have them
not.
over
I'm
San
not talking
Francisco.
about record. I don't know how clear I can make this.
Right,
It's
but
not about the record. Look at the run
I don't-
differential.
here-
Look at the run differential. The Dodgers have a plus 88, and San Francisco's sitting at plus 24. That's
Right,
that's
so
a
why
64
aren't-
run difference. Welcome back to the third episode of On the Board podcast. Tonight we have some stuff about NFL, injury reports, and training camp. And then we've got an MLB trade deadline special. We're going to be going through all the trades that have happened and what might happen over the next 24 hours or so. This will probably come out after the deadline is passed, so, we'll see where our predictions end up after the fact. So, Jeff, you've got something about injuries in training camp.
Yeah, so as you know, there's been a lot of injuries in the NFL training camp. The biggest team hit by it, the Denver Broncos. Two of their wide receivers done for either most of the year or in the entire year. Wide receiver Tim Patrick, he tore his Achilles tear, and he's done for the year. That's his second season-ending injury, back-to-back. I believe he tore his ACL last year. And then KJ Hamler, he has a heart issue. I believe he's got some type of condition that's going to keep him out for a while. They didn't say how long he's going to be out, but it's going to be a pretty big time, a lot of time. And this hurts their wide receiver core big time. This is a team that 4 of their wide receivers have played in 2 games together in the last 3-4 years. So it's not looking good for Denver. And on the other side, you got Miami, Jalen Ramsey. He's out till December with the injury. They signed Eli Apple to a 1-year deal and just kind of that veteran backup guy. And again, trades, Jonathan Taylor, he requested a trade from Indianapolis. Colts don't really like it. The owner certainly doesn't like it, and they don't really want to trade him, and that sparked a lot of debate, certainly on all the major TV networks. So it's been a huge issue, these injuries in training camp. But I think, Denver, they got rocked by it. I mean, Tim Patrick out for 2 straight years, and now you got KJ Hamler going out. That's not a good sign in Denver.
Yeah, I
And especially for Denver, because you're going all out on Broncos country. Let's ride, guy.
Right.
And Russell Wilson. So you got to give him some receivers, and it's just terrible because even when you have your receivers back, you're gonna have the issue of they haven't played in a very long time. 2 years is a very long time as an NFL player to not play any games. That is very rough.
I wouldn't be surprised if that ends Tim Patrick's career.
Oh yeah,
unfortunately.
I would say
Probably.
too.
Two of those major injuries in a row. Yeah. Even if he does end up coming back, he's just not going to be the same.
He's especially on wide receivers. There's some positions where you can recover from that. His explosiveness is going to be gone. His speed's going to take a hit. It's going to just be a completely different player, and I don't think he can adjust to being a completely different player in terms of wide receiver. I don't think he can become an inside threat wide receiver.
And remember, Cortland Sutton was also out. I believe it was 2020.
He's
so
always injured.
This is a team where, you got pretty good wide receivers. Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler, Sutton, and Jerry Jeudy. And, 4 of these guys, pretty much your entire wide receiver core, and they've only played 2 games over the last 3 years. And this is a team that has missed the playoffs every year since 2016. And they're showing no sign of getting better. I mean, you're going to need to really step it up. I don't know how they do it with 2 guys out now for pretty much the whole length of the year.
Did
they draft any wide receivers? Did they?
I don't think
I don't know. I'm sure they did, but no one that's gonna.
They've had to, but nobody's that's gonna replace 2 wide receivers. Like,
speaking of KJ Hamler, I'm looking at this now. The Broncos just waived him.
Oh shit!
Oh really?
They have a plan to get him back. They waived him,
Really?
and they said that they'll bring him back once that issue kind of gets fixed.
That really
it's a heart
sucks for
condition.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that really sucks for him because that's That's not a like training camp injury. That's like, oh, out for a year. That's a condition, and those always suck in terms of player who's he's not injury prone or not like it won't necessarily affect his explosiveness like an Achilles will or an ACL. It's just a heart condition which really sucks, and that's just a rough. And I don't wish that upon anybody to have any sort of condition that stops you from playing a sport. It's just really sad.
You look
Well,
at
let me clarify. No, go ahead.
Look at John Mechie last year. He was out the whole year with the Texans because he had cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
and I think
he just got cleared to return too, which is great.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a good sign. Yeah.
I want to clarify with KJ Hamler and probably Jalen Ramsey as well. Both of these guys are not out the entire year. KJ Hamler, they have no idea when he's going to come back. Certainly Tim Patrick, he's done for the year. They've already confirmed that. Jalen Ramsey, they said initially he's out till December, but Ramsey says he can beat the injury in a month, which seems unlikely.
Not
But
happening.
not the whole year. But I mean, if it is true that he's out until December,
yeah, that's a huge
that's a
hit.
pretty big loss. That's a big hit.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of injuries, a big one is Joe Burrow, of course. Like,
Oh yeah,
they're saying it's only a couple weeks, calf strain, but this is going to be the third year in a row where he's missing training camp, for the most part, and that's just big for chemistry with like the O-line and running backs and stuff like that.
Especially when they're really hitting one in stride now, where they're hitting playoff success. They're in Super Bowl contention now. You can't have your quarterback being out.
Ideally, you'd want him to be back by
entirely.
preseason to give him one game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just one game or even a few quarters, or like a few quarters just to get there.
It seems unlikely.
And how's that going to affect him? I mean, it's an ankle injury, right?
It's a calf strain, so it's not horrible.
Okay.
So it should be fine theoretically.
Is it going to hurt his mobility? I mean, we don't.
I mean, I
really
think
know.
maybe
He's not.
I don't think it'll hurt his
Early
mobility
on.
once he's fully back from it, but once he is back, I feel like they're going to say don't try and take off as much, just get rid of the ball.
Right.
Because
maybe
you don't want to re-injure.
First 2 or 3 weeks, they're probably more conservative with running. There's going to be more throwaway ball. But I think after that, it depends. If he plays preseason, maybe week 2, they're able to get him running again. But if he's just starting week 1, I say they wait till at least week 3 for him to be playing full speed again. Yeah. Personally,
and remember
he still has 2 of the best wide receivers in the game still right now.
They got 3 weeks of preseason, so this is.
Oh yeah.
I think this is the second year they're doing 3 instead of 4, so this cuts out that extra sort of week and a half, close to 2 weeks of, healing time. So it's going to be interesting to see how he kind of goes with that whole process as he tries to
be fine
get healthy.
Overall.
It didn't look bad. It didn't look bad. So.
And also, like the scheduling. Like their schedule, their first 3 weeks aren't that easy. They're at Cleveland, home against Baltimore, and home against the Rams.
Yeah.
So not
Those
like
are all
the
gonna be
easiest
tough games.
Yeah.
Which isn't like the best, isn't the most ideal situation for them. Because
I think if you don't have Joe Burrow, those are going to be near impossible games to win. The Browns one you could.
Well, we never beat the Browns.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
It's
Cleveland.
Kind of the kryptonite.
But, Rams had, people are saying, the Rams are a complete. They just fell off the side of the earth. They were so injured last year. It was ridiculous how many injuries they really had.
Stafford's getting a lot older. You still have Cooper Kupp, who's a top 4 wide receiver in the league. But
I would agree.
They lose Jalen Ramsey, and Andrew Whitworth was gone. Even with injuries, everyone back, that division is still really tough. Seattle and San Francisco are still going to finish above them. I'd say they'll get 6-7 wins this year.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're going to win the division or anything, or even
No.
get wild card contention. It's just that they're not non like at all contender. It's not a game you can blow off. You
Yeah.
have to actually prepare for this game. You're not playing Texans like.
Yeah. There are people that are saying that like they're going to finish worse than Arizona, but that's just
I don't.
Arizona's the worst team in that division by a mile.
That's
Arizona might be the worst team in the league. Who knows?
And as a person going to Arizona State, that's a rough one to pick up.
Going
there.
from the Bears to the Cardinals, that's tough.
Yeah, I'm just unfortunate, man.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got one more thing in the NFL before we head to MLB. The 49ers quarterback, I mean, I would call it a carousel, I guess, but it seems like these guys aren't coming back once they get hurt. So we've got Sam Darnold they just brought on in the offseason. Brock Purdy last year broke out for them, but now he's hurt. He had a UCL injury. And they've got Trey Lance as well coming back from his season-ending ankle injury that he had last year.
And Christian McCaffrey. So one quarterback in the league.
I mean, if they're all healthy, I think obviously you go with Purdy. But if Purdy's not 100% to start the year, is Darnold the move?
Well,
yeah. Trey Lance has done nothing. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I'm saying he has done literally nothing positive, like his NFL career so far. I haven't seen any sort of positive, like no signs of life from him. He's just like dead in the water. And it depends if Sam Darnold's seeing ghosts. If he's seeing ghosts, that's an issue. If he's not seeing ghosts, then he's just a below average to decent quarterback. That can be serviceable until Purdy's back. But I really think as soon as Purdy's 100% to go, just start Purdy, which is something, if you told me last year, I would laugh at you. But now it's a legitimate thing to say.
So I call it the three-headed quarterback disaster because, let's be honest, these three quarterbacks, no, not the answer. Purdy was good. Well, he was good last year because he didn't really make any mistakes. But if you look at his numbers, pretty average. Sam Darnold, I think he's just a bust. Let's call it what it is. He's terrible. He's not an NFL caliber starting quarterback. Trey Lance, on the other hand, I don't even know how he went number 3 in the draft. So I honestly, I'd release Trey Lance, but whatever. And then you've got the fourth guy, Brandon Allen, and I think that if things really go south, I think you have to start looking. Brandon Allen, I think he should start taking reps, and I think really we talk about these three guys. It should be 4 because they all have a legitimate chance at competing for the starting job. And this is a team where you've got the players offensively, you've got it defensively. Defense could use a little bit of work, maybe just a tad.
That's the best defense in the league.
Yeah, I was going to say.
San Francisco?
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. Yeah.
Statistically, they have the best defense.
Yeah, they are.
I don't buy it. But this is a team where they go far with quarterback success. They didn't have it last year. They've never really had it. I'm talking the last 10 years or whatever. So this is pretty big for them because they need to go with the guy that's going to get under center and really take things over in that position. And I think, these three guys, add Brandon Allen, they can't really do that right now.
I mean, I think we just need... obviously Brock Purdy, it's the big thing and the elephant in the room here where it's like, it was like Jeff said, he was decent. He was consistently not making mistakes, but like Jeff said, his numbers aren't anything amazing. But maybe I would say if he didn't get injured, I think there's a decent chance that he becomes a solid starting NFL QB. Yeah. Now with the injury, he hasn't had any time in training camp, possibly out for early season. He's probably out for preseason. He's had no more time to develop. It's not like he's been developing all of training camp. So, honestly, Brandon Allen might be the way to go.
Well,
Like,
okay,
I
seriously.
wouldn't count him out.
so the Niners defense through 17 games only gave up 30 touchdowns. Or sorry, they forced 30 turnovers. They only gave up 20 passing touchdowns compared to 20 interceptions. So they gave up as many touchdowns as they did interceptions in that year. And they only let up 11 rushing touchdowns. So 31 touchdowns against and 30 takeaways as a defense. Like that's the most elite squad in the league right now, and it's not even close.
How many points they give up in the NFC Championship game?
Dude, that doesn't. Don't.
What do you mean
do
don't?
that.
What,
That's
they're
such a
the best defense
bad
in the league.
metric. That's such a bad metric.
It's not. It really is not.
One
But
game.
listen,
You can't
you
just.
can always improve. Listen, any team can always improve.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So
But
they're
on
obviously
defense,
going to get better.
there's no player that's attainable for the Niners that they would be able to get that would make that defense better.
Right, but I mean, you can always
say like, oh well, yeah.
you can always
Aaron Donald
improve
would make them better,
your
but you're not going to get
defense.
him.
You can always improve your defense, and this is a team that's got a lot of history of guys going out. So if you can have depth at those positions, because you're right, they've got guys. This is a good defense, but if they can get depth at that position, they'll even be better. But I think the main reason is you got to fix the quarterback situation because it's terrible. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
This quarterback situation is horrible, and you got three guys. First of all, I even kicked Trey Lance out. I don't even consider Trey Lance to be an NFL caliber quarterback, and I'm throwing in Brandon Allen because why not? I mean, fourth QB on the roster.
Last year when Burrow didn't play.
So this is going to be interesting going forward in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm. And I think Deebo Samuel can't be playing running back anymore.
No, those days are over.
He needs to go back to being just a receiver. That experiment was interesting, but I don't think it was good. I think it was overall a negative.
Especially when you have Christian McCaffrey now. Like,
yeah, you
can't be
need
doing that when you have CMC because
can't do it.
Because like it's not like Deebo Samuel was a power back. Like then maybe. But like no, he's a wide receiver and he brings I mean, there's no reason for him to be at a running back position other than at no situation I can think of should he be in over Christian McCaffrey here.
I mean, obviously McCaffrey's the best back in the league, but I just don't think Samuel should be getting any carries beyond that sweep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any disagreement on that.
Speaking of defense, Carolina signed Deion Jones earlier. I believe it was earlier today, and that's going to help them out a little bit more. And then, it starts this week, Thursday, with the Jets and Browns Hall of Fame game this Thursday. So I'd probably predict Rodgers to play a series if that.
I always feel like the Hall of Fame games are just like the worst possible.
I mean, they're just an exhibition game, really.
Yeah, I know. But I think like you could have whatever. I don't really care about that game. It doesn't really show much, if anything. But unless you guys have something else to add, I think that's pretty much what we have for NFL
I don't think
today.
We have much else. I mean, we've got
really
the main news for the next 24 hours is going to be the MLB trade deadline. So I've got some of the trades up here. We're going to go through a few of them. So the first one I want to talk about is let me get the real details right here. But the Rangers are going all out, and they're buying. They really want to compete now. So the Rangers acquired Max Scherzer from the Mets for infielder Luis Angel Acuna, who is Ronald Acuna's little brother. But that feels like just such a light haul for Max Scherzer, even though he's struggling a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a win-win trade at all in the slightest, I don't think.
I mean, it's the Rangers' number 3 overall prospect, but
this
is one of the best pitchers of all time.
Max Scherzer, and if he revives even just a little bit, he's a top 20 pitcher in the league. I mean, dude is an absolute monster if he can even return to a little a little bit. I mean,
If
first
he
we
can
have
get back to like
just-
75% of his last year, then
Yeah.
you've got yourself an all-star pitcher. But so Luis
Yeah.
Angel Acuna, he's in Double-A right now. He had an 830 OPS, and he had 40 stolen bases in 84 games. So power speed guy, that's
He's a
like the
good-
future. That's the future of MLB as we know it,
Yeah.
and he's the 44th
It's a
ranked
great-
prospect. So it's a good haul for the Mets. I mean, they're dumping a lot of salary. They're dumping $40 million a year.
It just
Yeah.
it leaves a bad taste in my mouth just because if it was any other team I could kind of see it, but for the Mets it just hurts for Mets fans. It's the only time I'll ever feel sympathy for a Mets fan. But they went all out this year. They just had the maxed out payroll.
Yeah.
And they just got nothing. Like, it's been horrendous. Like, I saw a stat somewhere. It was like the top 3 biggest payrolls, all of them are either in last place or far out of contention right now.
Yeah.
Like, that's wild.
And the Rangers doubled down, and they went and got more pitching.
Yeah.
So they went with the Cardinals. They got Jordan Montgomery and Chris Stratton from the Cardinals, who are selling really hard right now. They've sold 4 major pieces on their team. So they gave up 2 prospects. They gave up Thomas Sagassi and Takoa Roby, shortstop and right-handed pitcher, and they gave up an MLB reliever, John King. So I think for Montgomery, that's pretty good, especially because Nathan Eovaldi just went on IL.
I think that's a completely fair deal in my perspective. I think it's a win-win deal. Rangers are trying right now. Cardinals are blowing it up for the future. I think it's a completely win-win. Talking about side tangent real quick. Talking about blowing it up. The White Sox.
Oh,
are
we're
just
gonna get there.
absolutely
We're gonna get
just
there.
like
We're gonna
completely selling everything they can, left and right. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The thing for the Rangers is with the Scherzer contract, only paying $22.5 million out of Scherzer's contract. The Mets are being forced to pay the rest
They're
of
eating
it.
a lot of that money.
Yeah, which is not good for the future because there's other guys they want to get, they can't. Speaking of the Mets, where do you guys think Justin Verlander goes if he does go anywhere?
So
I
I don't know.
heard
Verlander-
earlier today,
Yeah.
and I don't really remember the source, but I'm 100% sure this is from an official source that the Dodgers and Mets are in conversation about Justin Verlander. This isn't like he's going to the Dodgers type of thing. This is just
The
talks.
Dodgers, man.
I also heard something that said San Francisco should make a run at Verlander. I mean, pretty much any team I think would love to have him.
The Reds. I think they've got them. They've got the capital to get Verlander.
Right, and I mean, all these teams are kind of in the running for him. It'd be interesting to see if New York actually does deal him, because they might decide to keep him. The Mets are, at the bottom of the barrel in the NL playoff bracket, so it's not looking good for the rest of the year. But, maybe they try and keep him until next season or something. I have no idea.
Yeah.
This is something where you got a guy like Verlander who's one of the all-time greats, and, any team would love to have him. So I'd keep an eye out West Coast for Justin Verlander for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And
I've
the
heard
Dodgers.
rumors
It'd be hilarious if he went back to the Astros. I saw
Yeah.
somewhere.
That would be
It's
interesting.
Definitely.
That's also the Astros are also looking to
saw
see
it-
if
I
they could
saw
get him
it,
as well.
That's interesting.
So the Rangers and the Astros, like two of them, those two teams are also in.
Yeah, and then the
Looking for-
Dodgers.
yeah.
Speaking of them, they're going with the ultimate I can
Hard
fix him.
buy.
The ultimate I can fix him mentality. So they've
Oh,
picked
yeah.
up Lance Lynn,
Lance
who's
Lynn.
basically a pitching machine at this point.
6.43
Yeah.
ERA.
Joe
As a
Kelly.
Sox fan,
Who they're bringing back Joe
he
Kelly.
has like a 4 ERA.
And then the Dodgers also traded for Ahmed Rosario from the Guardians, who's been a bottom tier hitter this year. And they traded for Kike Hernandez, who's been like an 80 OPS plus guy for the Red Sox this year. So they're going with the idea that, which I agree with this idea, that if you have great infrastructure, great coaching, great, like, it's a winning culture in Los Angeles. Despite, the lack of rings, it's still a winning culture, and that might turn these guys' seasons around because Kike Hernandez and Ahmed Rosario are both really good players. Last year they were anyway, and then this year they've been slumping pretty hard. But I think it's been a pretty good deadline for them, in my eyes.
Yeah,
anyway.
I think the one thing they like kind of flubbed on is I don't think you can really fix Lance Lynn. Joe Kelly can be fixed. I mean, that I just don't know about Lance Lynn. I'm a Sox fan. I've looked at Lance Lynn. I've seen 4 or 5 of his starts in person this year. It's just been a disaster. Like, it's just bomb after bomb, and I'm like, he was a Cy Young candidate at one point, like, I don't know, like 7 or 8 years ago, which is just wild to me, because now he's not, like, super old. He's just bad. Like,
he gives up way too many home runs.
Yeah, I mean, and, like, sure you could go for the park-adjusted stuff. Like, sure you could run that, but I don't know. I still think he's just going to let up bombs. Like, I just don't. I get the rate is, like, somewhat of a home run. It's a home run ballpark. I get it. But I don't know if that's going to really change in Dodger Stadium. Like,
well, they're making moves.
Yeah.
The Dodgers, they're making moves, and they need to, because here's the thing. They're in the race for the NL West with the San Francisco Giants. And the Giants, by the way, went out and got A.J. Pollock from Seattle. So that was a move that they got, which I think that you should keep an eye on them to do a lot more. ESPN's thinking Tim Anderson, maybe to San Francisco. We have no idea. Paul DeYoung. Any of those guys at shortstop while Estrada's out. But the issue with the Dodgers is that they don't have that grip on the division like they've used to in past years. I think they're ahead of San Francisco by 2 games. You still got Arizona in the mix. That's pretty much it, because San Diego's in the dump. Colorado. These guys suck. So it's going to be a 3-team battle, and Arizona's falling down a lot. Right now they're 5th in the NL wildcard standing. So, you look at the Dodgers, they needed to make moves, okay? They got to they're going to try and stay ahead of San Francisco, and it's going to be another battle between LA and the Giants over the division, which, they might meet in the postseason again. But these are necessary moves by Los Angeles, because I think that they've recognized that they don't have that grip over the division. Listen, they're not 100% in the playoffs right now. A team like Tampa Bay or Atlanta, you're going to get in 100%.
Well,
but
Tampa Bay,
team like
maybe even not. They've been just atrocious the past.
They'll still get in, though. They have been bad, but they'll still get in. But, look at the Dodgers. The 2 teams in the wild card, San Francisco.
If they don't make it, now we have a clip of Jeff saying the Tampa Bay Rays are a lock-in for the playoffs.
Well, I bet the house that they're a lock for the playoffs. But somebody like the Dodgers aren't, because you got 2 teams in this wild card race. Listen, San Francisco's 2 games behind the division leader. So these are necessary moves to try and keep ahead of them, and expect Arizona and the Giants to do the same.
I mean, this NL wild card is just incredibly close right now. You've got, especially with the way the NL Central is shaken out right now. You've got,
it's a weird division.
So right now, Cincy's on top, and they're going to be after tonight, probably a game and a half up. But then you've got Milwaukee. They're a game out of the wild card. The Cubs are still 7 out of the wild card, but they're the hottest team in ball right now.
The Cubs are not 7 out. I think they're 4 out.
Dude.
No, they're 7 out. It says it right here. They're 7 out of the wild card.
Seriously, just a couple.
Oh, that's as of July 7th.
Okay.
Well, I gotta hear the Cubs are behind Arizona, Philadelphia, Miami, Milwaukee, and San Francisco.
They're 3.5 out, so it's still a considerable margin. But Arizona's been sliding, and Philly's, you can't really trust Philly.
And Milwaukee is probably the most inconsistent team in baseball right now. Like,
they can only beat the Reds.
There's teams where I'm like,
if they had an average winning percentage against the Reds, they'd be in 3rd in the NL Central, but they don't.
It's like a team. Yeah. It's like a really weird, like, there's some teams where you're like, oh, it's a day-to-day thing. Milwaukee is the poster child of day-to-day team. It's not even about, oh, this pitcher is pitching, so they're going to lose or they're going to win. It doesn't matter the pitcher. It's like you can flip a coin every single time, and 50% of the time, it's just going to be right because there's no consistency with that team at all. They don't go on winning streaks. They don't go on losing streaks. It's just every other game they just complete flipping, and that's just something they need to figure out if they want.
Well, they tried to
sniff playoff success.
They need that run support, and they got Carlos Santana, but he's still below league average hitter in terms of OPS plus. They just need something, because right now the best hitter on their team is like Christian Yelich, and he's been
not even an MVP
but
for
he's
him.
not been what he has been in the past, to where having him as the best hitter on your team was a good thing.
Yeah,
but
and
the Cubs resurgent MVP Cody Bellinger, he's been incredible.
Yeah,
right, and they said that they're not going to move him. That was a discussion probably about a week ago or even a couple of days ago.
They just went out and got Jeimer Candelario.
Right.
Yeah, I think 3 weeks ago, I think 3 weeks ago before they were this hot, I think they're selling. Like, I think they're not like necessarily hard selling, but I think they might get rid of Belly. They might have gotten rid of one of either Stroman or Steele. I mean, they should have gotten rid of Stroman earlier because the way he's pitching now, it's falling off a cliff. I mean, there's a high chance he recovers here. But it's also Marcus Stroman, who, nobody projected he would be as good as he has this year. So it very well could be that he just had an excellent start until the All-Star break, and then these last couple starts, he's just returned to being what we all thought Marcus Stroman would be.
Yeah. And Jack, you got inside stuff on the Cubs here. You're the only Cubs fan here, I think. Right? You're a Sox guy?
I am a Sox guy.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
I'm depressed. I'm depressed.
So, beyond Candelario, anybody else they should target?
They did get Candelario in exchange for 2 prospects. Who was it?
Jack searches that up.
Evan
just
Made
news
and
real quick.
DJ Hurts.
PCA, their number 1 prospect, has been promoted to AAA now. Pete Crow Armstrong, saw him at spring training, and I think he's a future stud. Personally, I mean, I'm not at all Cubs, not a Cubs insider here like Jack, but I'm from Chicago. I know a decent amount about both teams, and I've seen PCA play. I mean, he's got some real upside, so that's good news for Cubs fans too. Jack, do you have any input on any of that stuff for the Cubs?
Yeah, I mean, PCA, he's our top prospect right now. It wouldn't be crazy to say that depending on how good the Cubs are by like mid-September, by when the minor league season ends, it wouldn't be crazy to think that PCA might get called up to the majors. If not this year, I think will for sure be in the opening day lineup next year.
They're going to try and manipulate his service time a little bit.
And then you have BJ Murray and Brennan Davis, who are still they're still, I believe, AA. BJ Murray, Brennan Davis is not, I don't really know, he's not like, I don't know about him for being good. He's been in the minors for a very long time, and it's just, I don't know when he'll get called up, if he ever does. BJ Murray, I think, is going to be, especially at second base, which is a position Cubs aren't really strong at right now. I mean, you have Nick Madrigal and Nico Horner, and that's really it. BJ Murray would be a good addition for that. And then just now they acquired Jose Cuas, a reliever from the Royals, for Nelson Velasquez. Cuas has a 4.54 ERA with 52 strikeouts and his 41 2/3 innings of work. He made his He's 29 years old, made his major league debut last year with Kansas City. So it's a good addition because the Cubs did need bullpen help because the bullpen has not been good at all this year.
So, do you think that they're gonna make the wild card? Like, are they gonna challenge for the division at all?
They will. 3.5 out of the wild card right now, and current wild card standings are San Francisco, who's a game ahead, and then Miami and Milwaukee are tied. Milwaukee and Miami, they're both really inconsistent.
I mean, it's really, at this point, it's about getting hot at the right time, and right now the Cubs are hot.
Right.
And Miami is really not. They have been pretty atrocious the past few weeks.
I really
there's a lot of matchups this week that are going to have big implications on those wild card standings. Talking about Miami, they host Philadelphia. That those standings can change just like that. I mean, San Francisco's going to Arizona. I mean, these are teams that you look at the Giants, they're a game ahead of everybody. They could be out of the playoffs in like a couple of days. So could Arizona. Arizona could keep falling. Philadelphia could fall. Miami could fall, depending on how these couple of games play out. So, this is big. And, with the Cubs, they're hosting Cincinnati. So that's another big time.
Yes,
that one probably more than the rest of them. Maybe not San Francisco, Arizona. But that's going to shake some stuff up in the NL
Central. That's a huge divisional game.
And, big time.
Because if the Cubs can split that series, then that's big for them. Especially because Milwaukee's trying to figure it out. If they can just jump Milwaukee, then that's a huge thing for them.
Yeah, and they're not far behind too.
No,
I was just looking at some Sox stuff here.
On the road. Hi, Morgan.
I was just looking at some Sox stuff here. One thing that we haven't talked about, and some of you guys might know about, you probably do, but I'm from Downers Grove. I moved to Lyle when I was a freshman, but Downers Grove out of Downers North, they drafted George Wolkow. It was very exciting. I think that's probably a steal at where he was picked. Dude has massive potential. I mean, I think he's like 6'5". I think it's really cool that the Sox got him. Hometown kid story here. Hopefully, their atrocious ownership doesn't ruin it like they've ruined every other prospect we have.
Or like trading away Tatis.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like that kind of stuff. In terms of their top prospects, in terms of top five, you have Colson Montgomery, who's a shortstop. He's in high A right now. Estimated ETA to get in the league 2024. He's been going through the minors pretty fast. He's 6'3". So that's why you would possibly just try to get rid of TA right now, is because your top prospect is a shortstop, especially if you're just going to blow it up. Edgar Quiero, catcher.
The thing about shortstops, is that if you look across the league at top shortstop prospects and former top prospects that were shortstops, they can really play anywhere in the field. So a shortstop, an elite shortstop prospect is huge for any team, especially as a trade chip. If you look at like the Reds right now, McClain, De La Cruz, both shortstops. So obviously one of them is going to play a different position, and it's probably going to be Elliott at third. And then you've got Edwin Arroyo and Nelvi Marte coming up, and they're estimated to be in the majors. Marte should be up by next year, and then Arroyo should be up by 26. So then you've got guys that can play like center field, second base, all those positions. I mean, Jacob deGrom was a shortstop at one point.
Another thing to look at for the Sox now that they've traded away half their pitching staff, you have Sean Burke, who's in AAA. I could right-handed pitcher. I could very easily see them calling him up for this last stretch, get him some experience before beginning of next season. I mean, he's their 8th ranked their 7th ranked prospect in the White Sox org, so that's pretty solid for him. So I can see them calling it up.
Yeah.
They have some other They need to figure out a second base situation because it's still kind of a mess there in terms of second base. I mean, they haven't had really consistency over the last 3 years ever since Yolmer Sanchez left, really. So maybe if you're Colson Montgomery, if you're going to keep TA, like you were saying, Colson Montgomery, adjust play second, that could happen. Or you move TA to second. I mean, TA's not an elite shortstop in terms of defensive metrics at all. So, and he played second base during the World Baseball Classic, so I could easily see him moving to second, bringing Montgomery to shortstop.
Morgan, I know it's only been a few weeks, but do you have any inside information on how Jacob Gonzalez is doing?
I do not, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think the thing is he plays shortstop, so he most likely will be able to play everywhere. He was pretty good at Ole Miss, 15th overall pick. What do you think of him, Morgan? Do you think he's going to turn out well in the MLB?
I think he will. I think it's probably going to be, once again, it's going to be, it's really hard to tell unless you're probably in the top 5 picks even, I'd say, in the MLB draft where people are going to end up in terms of where they're going. I think he accelerates pretty fast into AA, or high A at least, and then probably accelerates to AA. Then I don't know how long he stays in AA. I think with the state that the Sox are in, he might accelerate to AAA considering how many guys they're probably going to have to call up with how fast they're exploding this entire place. So I could see him in AAA and as soon as 2025, maybe even next year in 2024. I think it's a solid piece.
For sure. And then, Jeff, you're a Giants fan. Do you have anybody in mind that's not like, oh, well, it would be great if we could get, Juan Soto, but you're not going to get him. So, do you have anybody realistic?
Well, yeah, I got a couple guys realistic. And I want to say this about the Giants because, they've had some weeks where they have been the worst team in the league. And they've had weeks where they've been the best team in the league. And right now, it was a pretty good week last week. Took 2 out of 3, I believe, from Boston, 2 walk-offs Saturday and Sunday. And right now for them is that you got to stay put, okay? And a lot of these teams got to stay put. And you don't want to give away any of these guys that, they were talking about in the offseason. We're going to hit the trade deadline. I think I read a Bleacher Report article that said Jock Peterson was going to be on the trade block this year. You don't touch guys like that. I mean, that's the core of your team. A couple guys out in the Bay are talking about Michael Conforto being a trade asset towards somebody. Again, I don't touch these guys. Conforto was one of your better hitters for probably a good month of the year. And I think that, the week at the shortstop, these rookies, they played great. But I think you need to go ahead and get Tim Anderson or somebody like a Paul DeYoung.
Especially
just another guy.
His stock
Tim
is
Anderson
so
is
low.
kind of getting...
It is, right, and I don't think it's fair to
Tim
judge.
Anderson,
well, that's what I'm
Anderson
saying. Is they can get him for so cheap right now because we
Right.
know what he can be, but right now he's just not
been kind of hitting his stride a little bit. I mean, this is going to really hurt for me to say as a White Sox fan. He hit his first home run a few days ago.
Him and Shohei are combined for 40 home runs already. That's crazy.
That is true. They are combined for 40 home runs. I don't know. Maybe he's hitting his stride a little bit. I mean, he's a great guy. Personality. I mean, he's full of personality.
Plays with a lot
know
of
that
passion.
I know that from experience. Talking to him, and he's just really great guy. And I think he would fit into the Giants culture.
Well, he would 100%. 100%, yeah. And this is a position where, Brandon Crawford, like it or not, he's getting up there in age. So you want to have a guy like Tim Anderson, who I think, if he gets a change of scenery, if you put him out in the Bay with San Francisco, he's going to do a lot better than the 1 home run, he's had over how many games this year. And I think that with that move, They went out earlier today, just actually a few hours ago, and got AJ Pollock. You want to counter the Dodgers here, and I think that they're right on their tail for the division, and you want to keep ahead of Arizona. So I think you add, but you don't get rid of anybody. You add, give away some of your prospects. That's all right, but stay put. If you're the Giants, if you're going to do anything, you stay put. You're comfortable with where you are right now. They're a game ahead of everybody in the wild card race, 2 games back of the division. And we'll see what happens tonight. But with the big series in Arizona, but you stay put as far as the trade deadline. Maybe try and get one of these shortstops, but other than that, stay put if you're San Francisco.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree. You're the residential Reds fan. They're arguably,
I don't know.
They're so hot right now. I mean, De La Cruz him and Shohei are the probably most exciting 2 players we've seen in a long time.
I've got some stuff
both playing at the same time.
I think Matt McClain right now is the better player than Ellie. I think Ellie's ceiling is obviously much higher, but he just needs to stop chasing pitches is really the problem.
Oh yeah, guaranteed. I'm just talking about in terms of.
So we went out and we got Sam Maul.
Go for it.
Who is a left-handed reliever, which we really need because we struggle mightily against left-handed hitter or against right-handed hitters, and he's been fine. This year's been a down year for him, but the last 2 years with Oakland, he's had a 100+ ERA plus. So I think he'll be great as an addition, and we get a little bit of international cap space, which is great because we've had success signing. International guys in the past. But in terms of making a big splash, which I think we need to do because we're so stock full of prospects right now that realistically not all of them are going to get to come up to the Reds just because of the way it is. It's all corner infielders and shortstops, and we just don't have room for it. So I think you gotta package up a couple of those guys and send them off for pitching. I think you got to look at Verlander. Because young starting pitching is going to be way too expensive right now. Because if you look
especially when you're the Reds, because you're in early in the season, I think Verlander would be a big stretch, even if we know what he was doing. At this point.
Right now, I think it's perfect for him.
Now they have the division lead. I mean, they're a serious team here. I mean, now you can go out and start getting some of these guys.
I mean, you've got Votto coming back from his injury, and he's not hitting for average, but he's got an 800 OPS, and he's really just smacking the cover off the ball. And look at what the Angels gave up for Giolito. That's the equivalent of giving up like Noelvi Marte and Cam Collier, who are 2 of our top 10 prospects. And that's just not for Giolito. Like that's not worth it. And I was in the Dylan Cease camp for a little bit until I saw that Giolito trade. Now I'm firmly out of it. But
Giolito's a solid pitcher. I mean, he's
fine, but he's not worth 2 top 10 prospects. It's simple as that.
The Angels are in such a hard. They fought so hard here because if they didn't buy at this deadline, there's no chance in them keeping Shohei this offseason. And personally, I think that's the only reason they're this hard at buyers. Other than keeping Shohei, I feel like that's their only priority is keeping Shohei.
Obviously,
in Anaheim right now.
Yeah. I just want to
anything you're buying to get the playoffs is because of that.
I just want to touch back on the Reds rotation real quick. Right now, they're like a month ago, the run differential for the Reds was like -30, and now it's +3. And we've been doing that. You've got Luke Weaver coming out there, and he's given up like 9 runs a game, and we're still winning those games. That's incredible. So once Green comes back, I think. So let's say you trade for Verlander, Green comes back end of August. Going to the playoffs, you've got Green, Verlander, Andrew Abbott, who's second in Rookie of the Year for me right now for the NL. I don't think Nick Lodolo is going to come back. So you've got Brandon Williamson and Graham Ashcraft. That's a pretty scary 5-man rotation because Ashcraft's really been holding it down past month or so, even though he started off so poorly. So I think it's just a great position to be in if you're Cincinnati right now, in my eyes.
Back to the Angels, real quick before we move on to another team and what they're doing. I think that now that the Angels have bought so hard, I mean, they have to tighten up and somehow get into the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you have no excuse. Because now you have no prospects. Now you're pretty much you have your guys left, but now you have to do it now, because if you don't keep Shohei Ohtani in, you're screwed for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Feels like. Because
it's just the fact that Joe Adell has not panned out has been horrible for them.
Oh yeah. It's just so unfortunate. It's just a complete, and it really has been, even since Mike Trout's been there. It's a complete, just utter disaster in Anaheim.
Is he a free agent? Shohei this season?
Trout?
Yeah.
Going
out of this season, yeah.
Free agent.
Tani is, yes. It's Trout.
San Francisco better get something together in this offseason.
I've heard New York, the Cubs. I heard the
Yankees. I heard the Cubs a few weeks ago.
I don't think he wants to go anywhere beyond Chicago. I think anywhere on the West Coast he doesn't want to be there because it's too far away from Japan.
San Francisco's perfect.
He said he wants to be on the West Coast.
It's either LA or San Francisco. Let's be honest.
If he goes to the Dodgers, I'm just gonna cry because
I think San Francisco is more likely though, because I think with how the Dodgers run their org,
well, they're not going to give him a 10-year deal.
Yeah,
which is what he wants.
San Francisco will give it to him.
Will shell up $700 million, but
and let's say hypothetically, this is the worst case scenario beyond the brutal injury, but 5 years from now, you're going to start to fall off a little bit because you can't pitch and hit for 5 straight seasons at the level that he does. And now you're stuck with 5 years of maybe just Shohei hitting or just him pitching, and you're still fine with that because you got those 5 years of just the best baseball of all time.
Right, and if he goes to San Francisco,
just pitching or just hitting is necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, it's still an all-star player.
Insane. He still has 39 home runs.
Yeah.
And if you're the Giants, what do you have to lose if you're going out to get this guy? Listen,
Nothing.
They've got the 3rd best record in the National League, and imagine adding Shohei Ohtani to that. Instant World Series contender, they are now. So imagine if you get that extra piece that
or the Dodgers.
San Francisco.
The Giants. I think he's. I'm
fact check
normally
that real quick.
The Giants.
Third best record, but I'd argue they're not World Series contenders.
The 3rd best record in the National League.
If their shortstop issue, I think they are.
Yeah.
Right, and and they might do that. And this is a team that they're young, so imagine adding Ohtani in that with guys like Peterson and Conforto, J.D. Davis hit the walk-off homer Saturday. This team is set. If they get Shohei. They're set right now. Listen, they don't even have to get Shohei. They could still contend with the Dodgers. And much like 2021, I think it's going to end a little bit differently. No more Gabe Morales. And I think the Dodgers got to be a little bit concerned out there in Los Angeles.
I think they've been a little shaky. Just in general, this year has been just a shaky season for the Dodgers. I think this is the first season in a while where you haven't been this is a solid, steady team, and it's a runaway, amazing team, and that's scary for the Dodgers because
they're not up to snuff right now.
You're not yet deep in prospects. I hate to say it, but if you guys start if the main roster starts, falling apart, even you're kind of screwed. The only thing you have is we have the most cap. We have a huge amount of cap and money, but other than that, I have to rely that this team.
So
this
Jeff,
main team's gonna roll.
How are the Giants World Series contenders right now? I'm confused.
How are they
that.
not?
I mean, they have a good record, but I just don't think they're like. I mean, obviously, even if you ignore,
2014 Royals.
No, I mean, even if you ignore the
answer.
Braves in the NL right now, who are clearly the favorites, they're the best team in the league by a country mile. You've got. So I'm looking at the roster. I'm pulling it up right now. So you've got Patrick Bailey, really good catcher, young guy.
Yep.
Lamonte Wade,
future Buster Posey.
Yeah, but Patrick Bailey's hitting 90 OPS plus as a catcher. That's fine. But if you look at any of the real World Series contending teams, their catchers can all hit.
Hold on. So the catcher, which Bailey's been outstanding.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's been bad, but you have to be able to hit at least league average.
Catching for San Francisco and hitting, not an issue. And
I mean, Lamonte Wade, Thairo Estrada once he comes back, J.D. Davis, these guys are all, Jock Peterson, they're all
Davis, Conforto, Peterson, these guys are clutch hitters.
Yeah, they're good hitters, but I just
don't,
nothing about this lineup moves me in any way at all.
And they're at top of the standings. I mean, they have the third best record in the National League.
Top of the standings.
Hold on.
Okay, are the Reds any less contenders because they have the same record?
No,
sorry, they have one more loss because they played one more game.
No, listen, if you're in the
thing that scares me, Jeff, is that you said the clutch hits, and that is right. I mean, they've had walk-offs, but there's been no real dominance, in my opinion. Like, that's the issue I find, is that you have to be absolutely smoking these bad teams, which teams like the Braves and before this mess in Tampa, before the break, I mean, Tampa was doing it. I mean, you need those absolutely killing those bottom-of-the-barrel teams, and the Giants just haven't done that to the degree that they need to.
Yeah,
so
Baseball Reference right now has them at 2% chance to win the World Series.
Okay.
Which, I mean, obviously that doesn't mean anything, but...
This is ridiculous. So, Morgan, one team, I guess, is a contender in your eyes, which is the Braves. Because I'm looking at the list right now. All these other teams, they've had the same issues. I mean, they're wild card teams. Tampa Bay is in the wild card right now. You wouldn't call them a World Series contender? What about Houston? What about Toronto?
Okay, Toronto's not a
contender right now.
Toronto's not a contender.
They're second in the wild card. If you're second in the wild card, you're a contender to win the World Series.
You have to look more critically. You have to look more critically at this kind of thing, right? You can't just say, "Oh, well, they're second in the wild card," and call them contenders. That's just not how it works. In no world is Toronto a contender this year. Even though their record might indicate they are, they're not. Everybody knows they're not.
So Jeff, if they're not content.
Marlins are second in the wild card in the NL.
Yeah.
Are you trying to say that the Marlins are a World Series contender?
Yes, these are guys that can make a legitimate run at a
that's
champion.
Just so crazy. That's ridiculous.
And it's not, because listen, this is situational.
Hey, you know what? The Twins are leading the AL Central. That means they're World Series contenders right now. Sure, they might just be a little over 500, but
Let me try to explain this for you. So if you make the playoffs, right, you're going to contend. I think that any team, certainly more teams have higher chances at winning than some of these other teams, and I think that the AL Central is kind of the outlier in that.
The expanded playoff, I like it, but it's made people so delusional.
Yeah.
But
there's less
I don't know how you can say San Francisco's not a contender.
Look at the NL right now. So teams that we think legitimately have a shot to make the wild card right now. So the three in the wild card right now: San Francisco, Miami, Milwaukee. Then you've got Philly half a game back, Arizona 1 game back, the Cubs 3.5 back, and then San Diego's 5 back. If they can put it together at the deadline, then they're a legitimate threat as well. But in past years, where it's just 2 spots, San Diego's blown it up, Chicago's blown it up, because they're not even close to contenders. And just because there's a third wild card spot, they're just gonna have to play Atlanta.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, first of all, we have to just everybody agrees on this. Jeff, you have to agree on this. Jack, true. Atlanta is the runaway.
They're plus
favorite for World Series.
151. That's their run differential right now. That's insane.
That is it's the most. If I hear anybody say Atlanta's not the World Series favorites, I'm just gonna write them off as a baseball watcher because
they're the World Series.
Well, they are 100%. I mean, but you can't look at one team and say, "All right, this team,
last
you know,
year,
they got the
Phillies
best
weren't
record."
contenders last year.
Let me finish, because y'all are not understanding this. You can't have a team can have the best record in baseball, but you can't say, like, a team dominant as the Braves. We get that. You can't say they're the only team to contend. And in the NL, we're talking about, some of these wild card teams, you guys might be right. They might not be able to fully contend. But to say the Giants aren't contenders is wild. This isn't even from like a biased point of like view here. It's like a fan. Not. This is coming from like a baseball sort of view.
There's a difference in terminology, right? So a contender, the only contender, there's two contenders out of the NL in my eyes, and it's LA and it's Atlanta. But then there's
LA over San Francisco.
There's 4 or 5 other teams. There's 4 or 5 other teams that you can look at them head to head in a series and say, I could see a world where they win this series. But that they have a puncher's chance in the series. They could take a series, maybe take 2. But you can't look at a team like the Giants and say, this team is in the upper echelon. Like, well, they're obviously a top team in the league right now, but they're not going to be like, this is my team this is one of my 1 or 2 teams that I could see in the World Series. I don't think
you don't have 1 or 2 teams to make the World Series. There's
LA.
A bunch of them.
No, but I'm saying
why is there only 2?
But there's a difference between being a legitimate contender and being able to knock somebody out of the playoffs.
So how the hell are the Dodgers in that conversation?
How are they not?
I'm on baseball
because they're as less dominant, and they're not even ahead of their division. I mean, they're barely ahead by 2 games. This is a 3-way fight for 3 or 4 teams in the NL that could really make noise. You can't just look at it as 1 or 2 teams that could really make some noise.
But you have to. If you look at the peripheral numbers, you have to. There's no other way.
The issue is
there's nothing.
Negative run differential. Like
who?
The Giants.
No, they don't have a negative run differential.
Do they not? Oh wait, no, I'm stupid. I'm mind.
No,
I'm looking at.
They're like plus 60 right now. But
they're not
top to bottom.
Looking
at this Dodgers lineup and the statistics, like the team OPS is stupid right now. Like Freddie Freeman's having almost a 1 OPS season. That's insane.
And how well has it gotten?
JD Martinez,
how well has it gotten? They're 2 games. They are 2 games ahead of San Francisco.
I'm saying
you're going through the entire lineup.
I'm saying when it comes down to it, I'd have LA over San Francisco.
Yes, I would too. I mean, LA
that's not crazy to say.
They are 2 games ahead. We don't even know that they might be better.
Oh, they're 2 games ahead. So what?
They swept them in Los Angeles and beat them 15-0 one right. They've beaten the Dodgers. You can't look at singular
games. It's baseball. It's a 162 game season.
Listen, my point, they've beaten the Dodgers. They've beaten these teams. So to write them off as not contenders, but say that the Dodgers are.
Saying they're not.
You just did.
I'm saying they could go in and they could win some playoff series, but I'm not going to call them legitimate favorites for the World Series.
And you call the Dodgers legitimate?
Yes, yes. God. Look at the numbers, Jeff.
They're 2 games better. It's not. You can't look at this stuff.
Go on baseball.
This team is
please. Go on.
They have not been as dominant.
Here's the thing: in the playoffs, baseball is the ultimate individual sport, right? So if you look at the home run hitting of the Dodgers, the OPS, I really like OPS plus as a stat. I think it gives you a really good idea. If you look at the OPS plus numbers for all these Dodgers, the only one that really stands out as this is like beyond bad is Miguel Rojas at shortstop. He's got a 46 OPS plus right now. That's bottom of the league. But then everybody else is like 30 points above. You've got a rookie, James Outman. He's hitting a 105 OPS, 344 on base percentage. Like, this is huge. They just are a better hitting baseball team than the Giants.
And they're 2 games better than them. And can I ask you one? Let me ask you one question.
It's the worst argument of all time.
It's not, because you can't just pick
Yes,
one
it is.
team in the NL. You can't pick a team that's better by 2 games, maybe a game and a half even, and say that the other one isn't. But let me ask you
You
this.
have to look past the record.
Listen, let me ask you this. If, let's say San Francisco sweeps Arizona and they're ahead of the Dodgers by a few games in the NL West, in the standings, does your view change?
No.
It doesn't.
No.
Dodgers could keep on falling, and you'd still have them over
I'm
San
not talking
Francisco.
about record. I don't know how clear I can make this.
Right,
it's
but
not about the record. Look at the run
I don't-
differential.
here-
Look at the run differential. The Dodgers have a plus 88, and San Francisco's sitting at plus 24. That's
Right,
that's
so
a
why
64 run difference.
So why aren't they better?
I'm saying you can't look at the game-to-game like record. You have to look at the overarching peripheral stats to actually see. And right now,
I
the
agree,
Dodgers clear anything that the Giants can put up there.
Right,
Like
but
I said-
it's
like
going
I
to come
just
down
said.
to head-to-head and in
I said-
division, and I
They've
don't think
scored
they can win in
100
their
more
division.
runs. They've
They
scored
might not
100
even
more
make,
runs than the Giants
I said
overall.
this-
Run
I
scoring
said
wins
this
baseball
earlier.
games.
they might not
I said
even
this
make
earlier.
the playoffs, and you
That
guys
is
call them
just
a
not
contender over
true.
San Francisco.
God.
I said this, Jeff. I said that it's the fact that the Dodgers are beating these lower level teams, and they are beating them with absolutely convincing.
That's what you have
just
to do.
no doubt. And the Giants just haven't done that on a consistent basis. They just haven't done that. And I'm not saying they're a complete write-off. They have the chance.
They're
and I
not a
think
write-off.
it's a
They're like
better
the fourth
chance.
best team in the NL.
Yeah.
They still
I
can
think
knock
it's a
knock
better-
a team out. I'm just saying
Yeah.
I don't trust them to put together 3 series and a World Series.
Yeah.
I just don't.
And you trust
I
the
don't think
Dodgers?
that-
Yes.
Yes.
More than the
They've done it.
Giants.
They've done it so
Right.
many times in recent years. They've proven that they can actually go far in the playoffs.
How many rings have they won since besides 2020, Jack?
That's such a
Not saying,
stupid
I know.
argument.
I'm not. Hold on, listen. But they haven't been dominant, and this is my point: is that I don't think you can be so hard, regardless of the stats. Which I think, you're right. They play a huge role in this with run differential and things like that. But I don't think you can look at a team like the Dodgers and Morgan, you've even said this earlier that they've been a little bit shaky this year. And with San Francisco,
And I think
nobody
there's-
really thought that Giants would be good this year. But I don't think that you can call if you call the Dodgers a contender and not the Giants, I don't think any of them are contenders then because of how less dominant LA has been over the last few years.
Well,
So
that's
because I haven't
LA
been
has
It's
impressed
just a
by them.
totally
LA has
different.
been one of the most dominant teams in, arguably, other than the Braves maybe last year, has been consistently one of the most dominant teams in baseball over the last 5 years.
I'd pick
Right.
the Dodgers
One
over
of the
anybody
best.
besides the Braves.
If you look at
I pretty
Going
much
back to
agree
your-
with that.
going back to your point on how the Giants swept the Dodgers this year so far, 2015, the Cubs went 8-0 against the Mets in the regular season. And then when it came to the NLCS, the Mets swept the Cubs. The regular season, those matchups really don't matter.
You can say that about a lot of these, and that's completely incorrect because it does matter. It matters for standings, and it's a big difference playing at home
But we've seen it
or
with
being
Philly.
on the
With
road.
Philly last year, it doesn't matter what the standing is. You can still make a run.
Exactly. And the Reds this year, they've lost almost every game to Milwaukee, and yet they're still winning the division over Milwaukee.
And they're still miles better than Milwaukee, I'd say.
Right, but I think
I
it's a
don't know.
level of confidence, I think, in your team, because these divisions, especially the two that you brought up, Jack, the NL West and NL Central, these are tightly contested divisions. And all I'm saying is that, a wild card is a road wild card game is a lot different than hosting in the DS. So, I mean, it is kind of a big difference here. Because it affects where things shake up. Obviously, there's still a lot of time left until the postseason. So I think we all might be getting a little ahead of ourselves with this playoff talk, but it does make a big difference because of the standing. So I would it's something to keep an eye on in these two divisions because they're tightly contested. So nobody really knows how it's going to turn out.
Talking about the
One
Braves
highly contested
for a second.
division is the AL Central right now.
Oh,
The
Right.
Guardians and the Twins, the White Sox and the Tigers and the Royals are really trying to prove who's the worst team between the Tigers and the White Sox. And the Royals are trying to be as bad as the A's, and they're just slightly failing at that.
Jeff,
So,
going back to your point on how the home wild card game is better than on the road, which you are right on that. Home field advantage is really good. Last year, 3 out of the 4 wild card series, the road team won, and 2 of them were sweeps.
Okay.
The only one that wasn't was the Padres against the Mets. That was 3. Mm-hmm. Guardians were the only home team in the wild card last year to win. Every other team won on the road.
You can't just look at.
We're just saying it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
The home field doesn't matter.
The wild card a lot of times, and they've lost.
No, we're just saying that it's not. Home field is an advantage. Home field advantage is a thing.
It's a tangible thing in baseball.
With that.
But I'm saying in a short series, it doesn't matter. Over a 7-game series, it does. But
7-game series, it doesn't. But,
it does. It does. It literally, by definition, does.
Well, I meant 3-game or whatever. But I think the 3-game wild card series is the dumbest thing ever. It should go back to
1 game,
just a game.
Be.
But I think it's because you get that.
That would be a reasonable home away. Is very important, I would say, in that where it's 1 game.
Right, but the other point I want to say is that I think that from a team standpoint, and this is not analyst or anything like that. From a team standpoint, the level of confidence and comfort with your team going into the postseason, you would much rather want to be at home. So I think that these with these divisions, and there's a lot of tight divisions out there. The NL East is another one that's up for grabs, really. Well, not besides the Braves, but it's going to make a difference, and I think that some of these teams, it's going to be a difference from being away and at home, and it's just something to look out for.
Okay,
come postseason
time. The Braves for a second. This isn't going to be anything. I just want to say, go take a look. If you're listening, go take a look at their baseball reference page. It's just incredible. They've got 5 guys hitting slugging 500 or more, 3 guys above a 900 OPS, and everybody on that team has a 100 OPS plus or higher.
And the first inning,
besides Eddie Rosario, who has a 99, so that doesn't even really make a difference. And then they're the only team in the league where, as a catcher, you can hit 16 points above the league average, have an 800 OPS, and still not be the starter. Travis d'Arnaud is having a great season. And he's just been totally overshadowed by Sean Murphy.
And when you look at the team as a whole, in the first inning, they score at least 3-4 runs every first inning, which is insane. That shouldn't happen. That's just how good they are. It's just how loaded this lineup is.
And their pitching has been great too.
Yeah, they're able to score 4. The other day against Milwaukee, yesterday, they scored 6 runs in the first inning.
They're just able to jump. They're just able to jump on teams, and in the playoffs, that's huge because you can just lose momentum so fast. But
because
that's pretty much. I mean, we're just looking at the Braves really as our favorites. I think that's the official stance of On the Board is that the Braves are the favorites.
100%.
Yeah. Maybe you want to argue Baltimore because they've been really good, but I feel like they're a bit young.
Atlanta.
I mean, their runs scored is ridiculous across innings.
Their offensive stats.
I know innings are weird, but it's consistently ginormous. 103 in the first inning, 103 in the second, 103 in the third, 103 in the fourth, 103 in the fifth, 102 in the sixth, 102 in the seventh, 102 in the eighth, and only 72 in the ninth. That's because they barely get into situations where they need more runs in the ninth.
Mm-hmm.
And home and away stuff. That is a consistently 2 or 3 runs above 100 in terms of innings. That is wild.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
They're far and away the best team in the league, and I think we're coming up on our time here. This has been the 3rd episode of On the Board. You can follow us on Twitter. That is @on_the board. on Instagram at ontheboardpodcast, and subscribe on YouTube. This episode's going to be coming out Wednesday the 2nd, hopefully. It was recorded July 31st, 9:30 p.m. is all our up-to-date information on the trade deadline stuff. And thank you for listening. We'll catch you guys next time.